So let's go to all services. We're going to start the actual scenario number 1. And while you're clicking on that, I'm just going to kind of give you a brief overview of Azure. So in the past 5 years, Azure has really taken off. I think Microsoft has always been very conservative with what they do. They implement, they built their data centers, they kind of watched, and the past nearly 2 years, it's been a bare knuckle fight with AWS and Google, right? There is this thing now, either a dual or a tri-cloud strategy that is out there for enterprise companies where they want to have a little bit of everything. They don't want to put all their eggs in one basket, and I can understand that, and I don't disagree with that. However, Azure has really come out, Microsoft, and let me kind of give you the 2 things that I think are really important. One is footprint. Azure has what's called 48 data center regions around the world. Now, inside of each data center regions, there's data centers. They have 178 data centers around the world, okay, which is more than AWS and Google times 2. Interesting, right? Now, security is the other thing that a lot of people do not understand, and where Microsoft is the leader in security. Microsoft, if you don't know, is the number 2 attacked company in the world. They literally behind the U.S. government. In the world, they're always being attacked. They have 18,000 people that are monitoring them in the security group themselves. What is really neat about that is a lot of the security companies, like Fortinet, McAfee, Antivirus, any of those companies that are working on that stuff, they actually go to Microsoft for all the latest updates to then sell to you. What Microsoft has also done is implemented their artificial intelligence to mitigate against what we call identity and geography intrusion. This should be really important to you, because today, really, the attack vectors, the vectors to get into your applications are via the application layer of the OSI model. And that's the very top, okay? It's no longer the network layer, on the bottom where it was like, okay, we need to build a moat and bridge around your current network. It's at the application layer. It's how they're getting in. So Microsoft uses their artificial intelligence to monitor user identification through multi-factor authentication. You have to do that. But number 2, geolocation. It's very interesting. And they've found out a way that if you're a person trying to get into your Azure Active Directory environment or Microsoft 365 environment, and you're coming through a Tor or Onion browser, somewhere they spoof your IP address, they actually will now have a tool that blocks you. You can't come in. If you're not going to say who you are and where you reside, your IP is local, right? And you're trying to spoof it, sorry, you can't get access. So they're really trying to make sure that they work, and that's different. No other company has that right now, AWS or Google. So those are really 2 things. I think certifications, they're certified in just about everything that you have. Okay, that's it. All right, so that's with that. So let's go ahead and get into our very first scenario, which is we're going to do a virtual network. So we'll click on all services, and we're going to click on virtual networks. Okay, so we're going to click on this. We're going to add a virtual network, which is your top plus button. And we're going to get what's called a wizard. What I love about Microsoft here, when you're using the portal, there's no wizard in PowerShell, but in the portal, it's awesome because it goes from left to right. So and then it does a review, and if you mess something up, it won't let you create it. So that's kind of cool. All right, so let's look at this. We have a subscription. We want to keep the subscription as Microsoft Azure. Now your resource group, I want you to go ahead and select your resource group. So you have CIE1. So Phil, you'll select CIE1 RSG. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and create a new one for myself. I'm going to do info RSG. Okay. Do that, and then we need to give it a name. Okay, so with the name that we're going to go ahead and do, and please follow along when we make sure that the names are exactly how I type them in, because we need to use some coding later, and we need to make sure our naming comes up together. So here I have Demo Lab VNet 1. Okay, you can do that too because you have your own resource group, so you can name it that. When you get a check mark, awesome, good stuff. Now let's talk about region real quick. Your region, okay, is the closest you are to your corporate address. That's what, and there's reason. There's latency, and then there's cost, right? How long it's going. So you want to make sure that you do that. Today, for the lab purposes, let's just leave it as US East, US, no problem. Okay. Next, actually, hold on one second. Let me ask a question. Would anybody like me to explain what a resource group is?
Yeah, I think a quick overview would be good.
Okay, great. So
just another question. I see different. I can hear myself. I see different options in the resource group, like C, I, E, not the one which you have listed there.
Okay. Do you which one are you? You're CIE what? What is your?
Let me tell you. I'm CIE 6.
Okay. So do you see CIE 6 RSG in yours?
Let me just see CIE 6. Yes, I do.
Okay, perfect.
Chairman, quick interjection too. Rosa would like if you can cover what a resource group is, please.
Wonderful. Yes. Okay, so resource groups are like the fundamental first step. We already kind of did that for you to accelerate the lab, and I apologize, but imagine this. Okay, I'm gonna give the layperson's kind of explanation here. Imagine you have a really big backyard. It's not fenced, and you're thinking, "Gosh, I want to build a car. I'm gonna call Factory 5. They're gonna send me this kit car. I'm gonna build." Right? Well, you need tools to build the actual car, right? But the car is really the star of the show here. So you go across the street, you borrow some tools, right? But you know, and then you got to return them. And then you go down the street, buy some tools, and you got to go across the way, and friends coming from different places. You don't have them at your fingertips, but you know you need to. Okay. Plus, you don't know whose is whose, right? What does this really belong to, right? So what a resource group is, imagine that same scenario. Imagine now you have your backyard and you put a fence around the resource that you're trying to create, right? You're trying to create this this car, which could be the virtual machine, right? And we need those tools, and then you bring all those tools, and now they're inside of your fence. Okay, they're sitting on the fence, and they're just sitting there, and now you can use them easier. You can go to them very quickly. So why that's important here? It's fundamentally important that we always have one resource group created first for whatever project you're doing. So any of the tools that you're adding to it, go in there, and then it's easy to get to. It's easy to find, it's easy to access, and you can also bring cost justification around what a resource group is. So fundamentally, that's what we should have done first. We just kind of made that assumption, but resource group always goes number one, and then number two is going to be you're creating a virtual network. Hope that helps. All right, let's move into number two. So there's two ways to advance. We can click on IP addresses up here, or we can go down to the little box that says IP addresses in the bottom middle of your screen. Great. Now when we're here, what I want you to do over here is delete what has been provided to you. Okay, because we're going to bring in a new IP address. Okay, the IP address that we want you to put in. Let's see, wait a minute, what's going on here? Okay, awesome. Now, what we have a little bit of error here. No, we're going to use this one. Okay. 10.2.0.0, yeah, no, we're going to use that one. And then what we want to do is give it a subnet. Okay, so we're going to give it a subnet name, demo lab subnet. Okay, and then what we're going to do here is give it a subnet of 10.2.0.0.26. Okay, and then we're going to go add. Awesome. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Awesome. So next, let's go to security. And now in security, we're Bastion hosts. We're going to leave these things disabled unless you're building a web server that's going to have millions of people coming in. Then you would actually start with DDoS protection. Okay, you would enable that. Next, let's go to tags. Now tags we're not going to get into today because of the environment. How long it is to explain it. But tags are actually very important because you can use tags to set cost limits and track costs based on specific tags for, let's say, your VMs. But let's go next to review and create. And it runs the file of validation. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and push create. and then your deployment will be in progress. So let's just go through. This is our first temperature check.